if all goes right today, we're going on our maiden voyage. That's right, man, the new coolant overflow tank has arrived, and, well, not actually the one. The one I actually ordered was totally different. It was a Moroso tank. This one is actually an all-star performance tank, but essentially same shape, same overall design, one slight difference. Let me show you what the tank looks like. So here's the new tank. You can see it is a lot bigger than the old tank. Here's the old tank, side-by-side comparison. Yeah, you can see it's a little bit bigger. The big difference is the overall shape. In fact, you see how it gets smaller at the bottom rather than at the top, which allows for the output to go straight out and not upward at an angle. The other big difference is that the output on this is actually a 1/4 inch output, which is the really big problem with this bottle. This has a 3/8 output and a 1/2 input. Way better flow than the previous one. Looking at this, you would think maybe this was stamped. It's not stamped, it's actually welded on the inside. So they welded the filler neck to this top plate and then welded the top plate on the outside. So yeah, I did double check, there are welds inside on the bottom. This thing is going to perform way better than what we had. Now that this is installed, there's one other thing we got to do, and that's install the overflow tank itself. This is the overflow tank I use. This is actually a Moroso bottle. I've used this exact same overflow tank in every Z I've ever worked on. People that want me to clean up the inside of their front bumper, ones that I've worked on when I remove the carbon canister and the overflow tank, this is what I end up installing in its place. Really happy, really excited about that. And speaking of tanks, I put up a post on the Instagram talking about our window washer reservoir. Maybe you could see inside there, maybe you can't, but it's in there, it's full of fluid, everything's wired, everything's hosed. It comes around here, everything's connected to the inside. I verified that we are spraying window washer fluid, so that is all fine and all dandy. The only sacrifice I had to make is that the original tank had 2 pumps, one for the front windshield, one for the rear windshield, so now we don't have sprayer in the rear windshield, which I'm okay with that. I can make that compromise. That's not a big deal. I need to jack the car up a little bit higher, get underneath it, get this overflow tank in place, put our battery in, make sure everything's wired up, which I'm gonna actually show you something cool about that. And then guys, I think we're gonna go for a drive, man. Even if it's to the back of my driveway and back, we're gonna go for a drive. Oh my gosh, guys, I feel like a hot, sweaty mess, man. It's been in the 90s, like 91, 92, 93 the last week or so, and that's hot. I don't care who you say, that's hot. But I know some of you are like, oh, it's hotter here, but you're probably also not dealing with a tropical environment of like freaking 400% humidity. But anyway, we got the overflow thing installed. So originally I wanted to put it like down in that area down there, kind of near where the clutch cable is and kind of out of the way so it's directly below the bottle. But the more I thought about it, the more I just thought that's probably not a good idea. Not to mention that there really is no mounting place right there. So I decided to put it exactly where it used to be, directly behind the oil cooler. Now, you probably can't see it very well. It's right there, tucked right behind the oil cooler, right where it used to be. It's completely out of the way. It's not gonna hinder any flow. It's not touching anything. It's right where it needs to be, responsibly and all that good stuff. What I'm doing now is I'm just finishing up the rest of the electrical stuff, namely the leads to the power. The 300ZX has one power lead that hooks onto this. It's actually right here. It has a fish hook or fisheye thing on it that goes right on this bolt. This little guy right here is off of an S13 harness that I had laying around, and it has 2 nice little plugs here. So I've been going through all the wiring that I have. I have found 2 perfect size plugs. I actually took a plug and cut it in half, so we have 2 halves of a plug. That way we can have a nice real clean install. However, I do not have the right gauge splicing equipment. I'm gonna run to the store when I get back, wrap this up. We'll be that much closer to letting this thing run, get all the burpy bubbles out of the system, and woo, excitement. Excitement! So I mentioned it extremely briefly in like one of the Instagram posts I put up recently about how I got a new toy. So yeah, man, freaking call it midlife crisis toy, call it 40th birthday gift, I don't know, call it what you want, but I traded in my Honda Fit, spent a little bit of cash that I had saved up, So I own this baby free and clear, but bought myself this 2011 Nissan Frontier Pro 4x4, and man, I'll tell you what, dude, I'm loving it, dude. I never had a truck before. I had a truck, like my mom had a truck when I was in high school, but of course I didn't really drive it much because shortly after she bought it, I graduated and moved on with my life. But man, this thing's pretty cherry, dude. It's like, it's pretty tricked out. It's got all the things that I want: the moonroof, the leather, all the 4x4 goodness, and it really brings way more utility into my life, which couldn't be at a better time, because, you know, pretty soon we're gonna need that exhaust worked on in the Z, and we're gonna have to tow it somewhere, and now I could just pay myself to do it. So pretty cool, pretty fine. But anyway, let me stop yapping at you, and I'm gonna go run this errand, and yeah, I'll talk to you when I get back home. All right, we're back. The electrical's in. I haven't tied down the battery completely because I have to actually drill some holes for where I want the battery tied down. And it's not fitting as snug to the outside of the car as I want it to, so I'm gonna have to modify the battery tie down just a little bit. And I need as much room as I can get to eventually put the oil catch cans that are gonna fit in that small little space. But check this out. It is all wired up. Still gotta put the negative lead on, and I was kind of waiting for you guys to show up to do that. Without any further ado, oh yeah, I'm gonna do like I always do. You gotta look everything over one last time. I'm gonna fire her up. I'm gonna let her run, get these burps out. Oh man, it's getting exciting now, guys. It's really getting exciting. Time to wake up the neighborhood. Oh yeah, and you can see our oil pressure gauge is functioning perfectly now. I actually just went in and I reversed the 2 leads on the oil pressure sender. The actual wiring harness itself, just flip-flop those 2 leads, and now we're looking perfect with our oil pressure, man. Very important. But our tack is still jacked, and that's just because I think the tack itself has had it. So I'm getting a guy I know on twinturbo.net to fix that. But all right, let's get out and start looking at the burps. It's looking really good. We're already getting some overflow, and that's to be expected. Getting a lot of overflow. Must have a serious air pocket somewhere. Alright. But it's idling perfectly smooth, no issues, man. Woo-hoo! Alright, it's a lot of noise, but really good news story here, man. The fan just clicked on all by itself, so now I know that the temperature gauge is working perfectly. The Haltech is doing exactly what it's supposed to as far as switching that relay. Really good sign, man. Really good sign. So it's been running for a little bit. It still keeps leaking coolant out, like it's just not pushing the air bubble out like it's supposed to. So, and the fan hasn't turned off. I think it's still probably on that low setting I was doing to try and trick it. Anyway, I'm going to turn it off, get the Haltech hooked up so we can see what's really going on with the ECU and all the sensors, and then we'll be right back. I don't know if you actually heard what I was saying, but anyway, the pressure in the system just keeps pumping coolant straight out of the top of this thing, and all I'm doing is making a mess and losing a bunch of coolant in the process. It's not burping the bubbles out like it should, and yeah, so we need to get that fixed. Plus the fan was staying on, and I think I just got the degrees set too low on that. So one thing I did when I buttoned up everything down below, I actually ran my USB straight out of the Haltech into the glove box so I could pull it right out of the glove box. And we can sit right on the roof of the car, man, and connect to it. I'm gonna do that now, get it connected again, get this thing fired up again, and let's get the air out of this thing. Sure enough, I had the on value set to 75 degrees and the off value set to 55 degrees. That is never going to happen here in Hawaii. Now that I changed the value, it shut off immediately, which is perfect. Let's take a look at everything else going on right now, shall we? So we're at 147 degrees with the coolant temp sensor. That is good to go. I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't actually set to real temperatures and this thing wasn't turning it off, because that would freak me out, meaning that this thing was overheating already, which that would have been really scary. Rather than make another mess, I'm deciding to actually burp it all by hand, just by using something soft like this roll of paper towels and tapping on the radiator, working bubbles all the way out, squeezing the hoses. And I'll tell you what, this thing was just completely topped off to the brim. And look how far it dropped, man. I don't know if you can see down in there, but it's almost empty. That's how much air I just got out of the system. So I'm gonna keep burping it by hand. That way I can go ahead and put the cap on and just let it work pressure out through the overflow. And I think we're gonna be good, Amici. I'm seriously making a huge mess. Radiators are hard. All right, she's running again, man. The good news story is I got a lot more air out and way more coolant went back into it than that came out of it. So I think all the bubbles are worked out. But man, this thing is running so smooth. Listen to this. Perfectly back to idle. Oh, perfectly. It is running super, super smooth. Today's victory comes when I take this car, sitting in that seat, and using the actual engine to propel myself back that way. And if I can even get to the end of the street and back, guys, this is a huge victory. And then we only have one more step left, and that is to finish the exhaust. So let me get my computer up here, put it inside the cabin, get things tidied up, make sure nothing's hanging loose. Let's go for a drive. All right, in the car, time for the maiden voyage, and it's only appropriate that I bring Miss Lilycat with me because she's been an awesome help, and Quentin's also with me in the back seat. The beauty of the 2+2, man. So Lily's gonna man the camera while we take the maiden voyage down to the end of the street. Fingers crossy. I'm feeling really good about this, man. Here we go. Well, we know the clutch is working. I haven't filled up the power steering system yet, so that might make a little bit of noise, but so far so good.
Wait, so it'll be real hard to turn?
Yeah. First time I've driven it, man.
Oh, nice.
Hey, Bob, your name's on TV.
How are we supposed to turn around?
Man, the idle sounds so smooth. Everything about the car sounds smooth.
Is it really hard to turn?
Yeah, it's really hard to turn. Come on. This is what we call Armstrong steering, because you gotta have strong arms.
No. Speed bumps.
Bro. After almost a year, this drive is a reality.
Woot woot.
Almost a year. Oh man, everything's so amazing. All right, where are we looking? Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. We got danger. Okay, we got danger on the temperature. We're at 240 degrees.
Is that bad?
We get out.
No, it's fine. Everything's fine, but it's definitely something we're gonna have to look at. Definitely something we're gonna have to look at. Good morning. So I actually wrapped this video up yesterday. I guess kind of on a slight note of defeat with the overheating issue. Had a big monologue, talked about, you know, troubleshooting, part of the process, blah, blah, blah. And, man, I just sat and stewed on it all night. So this morning, now that the engine sat overnight, I opened up the coolant tank, and guys, you will not believe this. So if we look inside, can you see that? It is completely bone dry. So we indeed had some huge air bubble, air pocket, something inside the engine that was causing that overheating, and I really felt that was the case because I felt a weird hot spot on the return, and the just for mental note, the radiator hose coming out of the radiator was nice and cool, which means we were really getting some good cooling. Here's the thing, right? So right now I have the engine block feeding the bottom of this, and then it's supposed to rise to the level it needs to, and then it goes back out to the heater core to the block. In my mind, that makes sense. That seems like the way it should be, but because of the way it's set up, that's how we run into the issues that we do, because right now if the coolant is low, if there is an air pocket, the block is not pushing enough coolant to get up and actually work its way back out into the system. If we reverse this to where the block is pushing into the heater core, then the heater core is pushing into this thing, at least then, even if we're low on coolant, we still have some amount of coolant that's being pumped back into the engine via gravity, and it's getting sucked out the bottom of this tank. I am going to reverse the two lines on the block. The one straight from the block, put it now into the heater core, and the one from the bottle, put it into the return. Work on burping the rest of the system, and the guys, I think we're gonna be golden pony boy, man. I think we're gonna be good to go. Just a bit of time has passed since the last time we were talking. Everything's been rerouted. It took some significant re-engineering just because there's a very hard angle out of the block and into the heater core area. So had to find the right piece of hose laying around in my stock that had good bends and didn't kink. Got it all done, but man, I'm telling you what, I dropped a ton of coolant in the process, and so there's no good way to troubleshoot when you've got a floor that's wet. So I had to wait for the floor of the garage to dry, that way I could bring it back in, and that way you could see the drips when they're happening. Otherwise, it just gets lost in the wetness of the floor. She's sitting out in the driveway, man. I'm about to fire it up, bring it in here, hook up the laptop, go ahead and burp it out. I think the way it's set up now, I think it's gonna work good, man. Mrs. BC doesn't know it, but she sacrificed her turkey baster to help take some of the excess out. Love you, honey. Got enough drained out now that there's excess, and the way we have it routed, it really doesn't even need to be near the top, which is great. Things are good here, things are cleaned up. I'm getting connected to the ECU. Once I'm connected and I have a good connection, then I'll go ahead and fire it up, and we'll get it burped out. Keep close monitor on what's going on. Shouldn't have any issues. We're gonna go for another drive, man, I'm telling you. All right, so the good news is I got enough out to stop the overflow from happening. Once I got a good steady level in there, I went ahead and gave the lower radiator hose a couple squeezes, and now the level is dropping significantly, so that's really good. We're still only at 94 degrees, so we got a ways to go before the thermostat opens, but yeah. We're definitely doing good on our levels, so I'm gonna go ahead and add a little bit so we don't create an air bubble, and I think we're gonna be good. All right, we're up to 183 degrees now, still tons and tons of burping, man. I'm so nervous about how much coolant is sitting here. I've been trying to take a little bit out, but oh my gosh. But this thing's been running for quite a long time, and we have not hit any kind of danger zone, so that's really good news. I'm gonna continue to try and take out this excess, but man, I really think we're sitting in a really good place right now. I'm pretty excited. I think the nut has been cracked, man. It was getting danger close to the top of that funnel. What I did is I went ahead and just shut the car off, and at that point, it was just like bubble city, burpity burpity burp, and it just drank all that coolant. And in fact, it's almost drank an entire bottle of coolant, and I've added more. And this bottle was almost full when we started. It's now completely empty, and there's still room in there for more coolant. So I think we've gotten to a point where the thermostat actually opened and it's just drank it all and filled the block. Temperature is still coming down. It's at 179 right now. But Amici, I know it was that air bubble, man. We've definitely got it. So I'm gonna continue to keep topping this thing off as it's kind of chilling out. I'm probably also gonna go get some water wetter today and add that. Once I get this topped off and it doesn't keep draining in, then I think we'll just fire it up for a long-term idle and see how it runs. And P.S. I did check the oil, and the oil is perfectly good, so this coolant's not being drank into a cylinder wall, so that's good. Not that I thought it would, but you know, we're gonna go for another drive, dude. This is good. This is all good news. All right, I'm back, and change of clothes because I don't want to go riding in my car nasty, dude, because my other shirt was pretty soaked with coolant. I went ahead and picked up some of this Redline water wetter. I figure I need to take every advantage that I can. I read on some forums, some dudes in Australia, they usually run this. It helps out with temps, especially in that kind of environment where it's pretty hot. But I mean, if you think about it, this is a very non-standard configuration, non-standard radiator. We're not using a clutch fan. Why not take every advantage that we can? I'm gonna add all of this to it, top off the rest with some distilled water that I picked up. Make sure it's all completely topped off, put the cap on, and then we're gonna go ahead and do an idle session for, let's say, 15-20 minutes. See what happens after that. I'll be back with the results, and hopefully you'll be in the passenger seat. Still got a little bit more time to go. About 6 minutes left of my 15-minute test. But just a second ago, the car got up to 192 degrees. The fan kicked on just like it's supposed to. It was maybe on for 30 seconds. And in that 30 seconds, it pulled the temperature from 192 down to 182, and then 181. It shut off at 185, but it continued to drop to 182, 181, and now it's just slowly going back up. So in 30 seconds, it cooled itself back down 10 degrees, man. This is a win. This is a freaking win, dude. Freaking sucks! The 15 minutes is up and nothing but super success. So I had 4 cycles of the fan. So that's 4 times we hit 192. The highest it ever got was 193. The fan is scheduled to come on at 192 to turn off at 185. Every single time the fan turned itself off at 185, just like it's supposed to, but the car continued to drop another 3 degrees down to 182, sometimes 181. That is incredible, man. It's keeping itself exactly where it's supposed to be. Definitely an air bubble. That was the issue. I'm gonna do one last check over everything. I think I'm gonna go ahead and take the bonnet back off, and I'll explain more on that in a little bit. And then I'm gonna grab one of my kids so they can sit co-pilot, keep an eye on the ECU while we're driving. And yeah, let's see if we can make it a little further than the end of the road. All right, man, it's time to go. And this time, I've got Mrs. BC with me. Ah, snap! She's gonna be the co-pilot, keeping an eye on everything. I'm super confident, but never hurts to have help, right? So let's just stop talking and doing. Let's start doing.
No, 190 was the highest.
That is amazing, guys. That was a good drive. Got through 3 gears. Never hit over 190. Just now we are because we're sitting still. That's incredibly good news, man. That means our radiator is kicking butt. So stoked. So stoked. I'm gonna let it idle for a little bit, let it do its fan cycle, and then yeah, let's go from there, man. It may not seem like much, but we officially have 1 mile on this engine. Oh, that's awesome. Man, I'm so stoked. I am so jazzed. That was a seriously huge victory, man. Not going over 190 degrees. The car is really freaking loud. There were a couple cops over there. They were actually ticketing a car that's in a parking lot that was supposed to be abandoned because they're going to repave it. And they were really eyeballing me, and I'm not trying to attract any attention. I mean, technically, they could have got me for not having front turn signals or a license plate. And sometimes cops are bored enough to do that stuff. So, huge victory, man. Huge victory. The car drives. We have driven the car, dude. Incredible. As for the way ahead, man, the next step is to get the exhaust done. I'm gonna do that one of 2 ways. Either I'm gonna rent a welding machine and do it myself because I've always wanted to try my hand at welding, or now that I've got a truck, rent a trailer, put the Z on that trailer and haul it over to the exhaust place. I'm already 1 step ahead because I know exactly how I want this exhaust built. I've already ordered all the exhaust pieces that I need. You can see in here, stainless steel 3-inch pipe, flanges. I've got an 18-inch stainless resonator to help calm it down. This long box is just a generic 4-foot long 3-inch stainless pipe just to use for straight pieces to cut up and use as needed. The idea is to come out, join the 2 into 1, 45 over, 45 back resonator into the X pipe over there, where we'll join it back, or we'll split it and go to the 2 different mufflers. I'll tell you what, man, there's a book out there, and it's actually like a relationship book. It's called Men Are Waffles, Women Are Spaghetti. And the reason why men are waffles is because sometimes our minds get trapped in little compartmented things, and we only like to solve one problem at a time. We only think about one thing at a time. Men in general just get fixated on one thing, whereas women are just a freaking mess. Like, imagine a bowl of spaghetti, but a beautiful mess, of course. All last night I was definitely in my waffle zone about the overheating that was going on, rationalizing everything in my mind, using my knowledge, thinking of the engine, thinking of the setup, thinking of everything I could think of, and it all boiled down to a bad thermostat or a seriously huge air bubble. And when I came back and I opened that lid this morning and there was no coolant in that tank, I'm glad that it was an air bubble, man. Oh my gosh. So stoked, so excited, guys. The RBZ is driving. It is alive. It's loud as hell, and it's disturbing some neighbors, but this project is damn near finished. Anyway, Amici, today's been a great day. I'm glad I came back to talk to you some more because I really didn't want to end TueZday Garage on a sour note. Anyway, until the next time, thanks for tuning in. Tell your friends, have them come join me. Look through the whole vlog. The first parts are kind of cringy, but stick with it, man. It gets good. Ciao a tutti and aloha. Bye-bye.